on time. We have with us Sheela ma'am, and she's going to tell us a very important lesson on how to say no. I think a lot of us have this issue, so let's see how we can get tips from her. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Um, I'm Sheela Balan. I have about 6 years of experience in counseling and in the field of mental health. Um, Before I start off, I'd like to say that there could be certain parts that might be triggering for you. There is mention of abuse in my slides in what I'm going to say. So just be cautious about it. If you need to leave and come back when you're talking about it, please feel free to do that. I'm a counseling psychologist. I have about 6 years of experience, and I was telling one of the professors here that I do have a bit of corporate experience, so I know how it is, the corporate world as well as in an institute level as well. Currently, I am a faculty member with one of the institutes in Bangalore. And I've had clients of various ages. My oldest client was about 72 years old. My youngest client, currently who I terminated yesterday, was 10 years old. And one of the reasons I terminated the youngest client after just 10 sessions is because he knew how to say no without any sort of a training, right? And there's a lot that I tend to learn from these clients every day. All my clients have, in a way, made me be the counselor I am today. So gratitude to them. Um, so one thing that I've realized while doing sessions with my clients, it has always been about how the current thing that is causing them concern or worry, somewhere directly or indirectly, it has an impact of them having said no in the past, right? Reasons why they would have said no, or reasons why they were not able to say no. That's what I was trying to say, sorry. Saying yes to the things that they were not able to say no to was indirectly impacting their current mental health, what they were going through, right? And this has always been unpacked in sessions. Maybe in the fifth session, sixth session, we then start to unpack reasons why they were not able to say no. So I'd like to take you all into my slides right now. Let me just share my screen. All right, can you see my screen? Can I get one of you to let me know if you're able to see it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can see. Thank you.
All right, this is a question to the audience. If you can tell me why often you feel the urge to say yes when in reality you want to actually say no. If you can type out your answers to this question, it would be great. And this is an interactive session. The more you interact, either by unmuting and telling me the reason, or by typing out, you're going to be taking away more. You're going to be learning more. So I encourage you all, I invite you all to be more interactive. I won't be able to see the your responses because of my screen. If one of you can just,
Yes, ma'am. So one person said maybe the person will feel bad,
yeah,
and I said because you don't want to hurt the other person,
absolutely.
and the third person also said the same.
Yeah, most often we are thinking about somebody else, right? We're not thinking about ourselves, and that's why we say yes. Yeah, sure. Any more responses to that question? Why we tend to say yes? Yes.
Peer pressure, one person said.
Peer pressure. Can you just explain a little bit more? What do you mean by peer pressure?
Maybe what the person wants to say is that, with other, uh, like, when we are in a group and
Hmm.
everybody else is,
Yeah, yeah,
saying things positively, and you don't want to get alienated.
yes,
Okay, someone
absolutely.
else also says fear of being judged.
Absolutely, yeah. You're looked down upon when you're saying no because it's considered rude.
Yes.
Thank you for those responses. It's lovely to see when you're like being interactive as well. My slides here, they have reasons such as conditioning. When I say conditioning, what I mean is right from a very young age, We are taught that saying no is a very rude thing. Our older people in the families, our colleagues, our teachers, friends, everybody tells us, oh, how can you say no? You're not considering somebody else's emotions when you're saying no. So we are constantly being conditioned to say yes even when we want to say no. It is kind of deep rooted in us. Our body feels uncomfortable when we say no. Sorry, when we say yes, but still we go ahead and we say, okay, let's do this, when in reality I want to say no because of the conditioning, right? Fear of antagonizing people. What I mean here is, we are scared where when we say no, instead of saying yes or as expected by them to say yes, when we say no to them, we are scared where we might make them upset with us or angry with us. So, because of that fear, we'll end up saying yes. But in reality, it's a no from within, right? The fear of standing up to power, especially when it comes to authoritative people, maybe our boss, maybe our seniors in school, in colleges, or at a workplace, right? Because of the power they hold, we are forced to say a yes, even though we may not be able to do something that they're asking us to do. Sometimes it could be illegal stuff as well. They might expect us to do something that is not legally okay. And because there's this fear of this authoritative person, we'll end up saying a yes. Sympathy for others. Now, what if I don't do this for this person? Will they get themselves into trouble? Right? Or I'm feeling sad for this person because he or she is not able to finish an assignment because of XYZ that they're going through, and hence I will do this for them, right? And in reality, I want to say no, but I'm landing up saying yes because of the sympathy that I have for others. The lack of skills or personality, just being this person who cannot say a no, not learning that it's okay to say no. That is the personality that I'm talking about. That's the skill that we lack when we want to say no, but in turn we say a yes. We keep justifying, saying that if I do better, or if I'm able to do this for this person, putting my needs and wants at the back seat, then maybe they will like me, maybe they will accept me. That is the justification we keep giving ourselves, and we keep saying yes, yes, yes for everything that somebody is asking us to do. People pleasing, we want everybody around us to like us. Yeah. And in order for everybody to like us, and this has deeper issues, the people pleasing has deeper issues, and because we have those deeper issues, we'll end up saying yes when in reality we want to say no. So, what happens when we say yes? This is again to the audience I'd like to ask, and I'd like one of you to read out their responses. What happens when we say yes, when in reality we want to say no? What happens to us? Think about yourself, put yourself in a situation, or recall a situation you were in when you actually wanted to say no, but you landed up saying yes. What were the effects of that? And please let me know if I'm going too fast as well. I can slow down for you all.
No, ma'am, your speed is okay. I said we feel trapped, and Sweeta said resentment.
Resentment? Yes, yes. Feeling trapped. Yeah, you are feeling very uncomfortable being there in the first place, okay? Any other responses?
Not yet.
One of the things that happens to us when we say yes, when in reality we want to say no, is we land up over accommodating the other person's needs and wants. We're always saying yes, yes, yes to everything they're asking. Let's go here, we're saying yes. We're not paying attention to our needs and wants. So, in the longer run, what happens is we are abandoning ourselves. We're not paying attention to what is it that we truly want. I might not want to go to a place, a restaurant, or a movie, but my entire peer group wants to go. So I am over accommodating the other people's needs and wants and abandoning myself. One incident of this, one or two incident of this might not have a very big impact on us, but the more and more we are doing this, the more and more we are over accommodating somebody else's needs, more and more we are abandoning ourselves. On the longer run, it's going to take a toll on our mental health, right? Not having boundaries, when we are saying yes, when in reality we want to say no, there is a non-existent boundary. Anybody can come and say anything to us, and we are obligated in a way, not externally but internally, to be able to say yes, where the boundaries become non-existent, or our boundaries become something that can be flexible by everybody very easily. Now boundaries is, on the other hand, a whole different topic in itself. But everybody needs to have these boundaries, and we do not recognize what boundaries are in the first place. The other thing is we are overcommitting. For example, if you are working somewhere, you're overcommitting by saying, yes, yes, I can do this, I can do that, I can just put everything onto my plate, and you're constantly, on an autopilot mode, and you're just working, 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 which eventually is going to lead to burnout. Again, the overcommitting comes in when you lack those boundaries, when there are non-existent boundaries there. And like somebody said, you start to feel resentment for yourself, for people around you. You feel drained out. You kind of want to run away from people who are making you feel that resentment. Yeah. So moving on, what do you think you can do to be able to say a yes? First and foremost, try and inspect about how you are feeling when somebody says a no to you. Is that making you feel uncomfortable? Is that making you feel upset? Are you becoming angry? Then you need to be okay with somebody saying no to you. Once you're getting yourself there to be able to accept a no from people around you, you will be okay to say no. Trigger warning, there's mention of abuse here. I had a client, she's still doing her sessions with me, but this client had been subjected to sexual abuse when she was growing up. The first instant of sexual abuse was when she was at the age of 6, right? And this abuse carried on by various other people within
हाँ
the
बोल.
family, up until she was into her
हाँ हाँ
late
हाँ, नहीं नहीं,
teens,
अभी मैंने कर
right?
दिया ठीक.
So during one of the
हो गया ठीक.
sessions, she told me that the sexual abuse stopped when one of her perpetrators told her that she can say a no if she's not enjoying it, right? So that's when apparently she realized that she could say no. So, firstly, understanding the fact that yes, as much as we are conditioned to always say a yes, you can say no, and it's perfectly okay to say no. Have clear boundaries. Clear boundaries, make those boundaries clear first for yourself. Come up with a set of boundaries for yourself. Just make a list saying, these are my boundaries. And once you have your boundaries in place, try and communicate it with people. It could be with your family, it could be with your siblings, it could be with your peer groups. And there are various ways in which you can communicate this boundary to other people. Once you've communicated it, and you recognize that there are people who are breaking those boundaries, you will have to then enforce it. Tell them, hey, listen, this is my boundary, or this is something that I can do right now, or this is something I cannot do right now. And then you'll be able to take it forward. Practice saying no with little things first. Maybe at home, start with your family, start with your friends, start with your siblings. And those little things could be like, maybe, using of a book. Maybe somebody is coming and asking you, can I borrow this pencil, or can I borrow this book from you? And if you don't feel like giving it to them, say no to them and give them, a reason behind it as to why you do not want to give it to them. So start practicing with smaller things within your comfort level, within your comfort area. It could be your house, it could be your class, or it can be at your work. Pause and ask your inner self, do I want to do this? Now, this is a point where I want to bring in about your body as well. Sometimes we fail to listen to our body. Our body always is communicating to us. Notice how your body is feeling when somebody is asking you to do something, and you have the unbearable urge to just say a yes, but in reality when you want to say a no. So recognize what is it that's happening to your body, because our body knows us better than we think we know ourselves, right? We always ignore what our body is saying. So notice if there's any aches and pains or discomfort that you're feeling in your body. Ask your inner self, do I really want to do this, or is it that I'm feeling obligated to do it? Right? And whatever your answer is, go with that. Most often your answer might be like, yes, I think you're being over accommodating, or I think you're just trying to please this person right now. So if that's the answer, please go ahead and be okay with saying no. So how do we say no? If the audience, anybody has in the past managed to say a no, how did you do it? I'd like to hear that from you.
By
And
making some excuse.
sorry,
By making some excuse.
by making some excuse, okay. And so far, if the audience has any questions, also I'm willing to take some questions before I proceed.
One person says we can say that maybe next time.
Maybe next time, okay. Any other questions or answers there, ma'am?
No, ma'am.
No. All right. The reason why we do not get many responses, especially to this slide, how to say no, is because this is again an alien term, right? Nobody has told you, firstly, it's okay to say no. Secondly, there's so much of conditioning that you feel so uncomfortable bodily and emotionally to say a no. And most often, going back, we just do not recognize, we do not know that it's okay to say no, right? And that's why there are no answers to this question. But one of the ways that we could say no is by giving them an alternative or a recommendation. For example, if somebody has to send me a text, or anybody a text in the audience saying, today my car got punctured, or I'm stuck here and there's some problem with my vehicle, can you come and get me? And if you're in a situation where you can't go physically, or it's uncomfortable for you to do that, you can always say, you know what, I'm stuck somewhere right now, I don't think so I can come, but here is a recommendation. There is a place close by that you can call. Maybe they would come and tow your vehicle for you, giving them a recommendation in that instant. Yeah. So always saying, or not always, most of the time, if you want to say a yes instead of saying a no, try and give them a recommendation or an alternative. Yeah. Your language and diction. When I directly say no to some people because of their own personality, they might not be able to accept. They might start to antagonize you, right? So, what you could do is start off, instead of saying directly that I cannot do this right now, you could maybe say, um, you know, I may not be the right person right now to do this. Can you look at somebody else who can help you with this? So using positive language rather than a negative language. I cannot, starting a sentence with no directly, or starting a statement with I cannot do this right now. You can always say, maybe I'm not the person to do or help you with this. Do you think you can find somebody else? So language becomes a very important tool in being able to say no. Yeah. Answer a request with a question. Yeah. For example, why, if somebody comes and asks me to do something, then I can probably ask him, why is it that you think I'm the person who can help you with this, rather than directly saying no. So while we are doing this, while we are answering the request with a question, not only we are conveying the message that I might not be able to do this for you, but also you are helping them see a different perspective. You're questioning as to why they think that you can help them with it. And maybe they themselves might come up with a recommendation there. So try and answer their request with a question. Ask for more time. Somebody did mention that initially, right? Asking for more time. Maybe you can make a statement saying that, I'm probably, this is not the right time for me to come over and help you with this. Do you think you can find somebody else meanwhile? Or if you're not able to, maybe come back and we'll see how we can go about this, right? Or saying, give me this much of time. Now, also, this can be a little toxic because of my other slides that, I mean, other points that are coming up with this slide. My recommendation would be always, instead of asking for more time, to directly say that this is something that you cannot do. But again, because there is this conditioning in you and because you're not able to say or no directly, you can go ahead and ask for time in the initial phases of you practicing to say no, right? But on the longer run, asking for more time may not be a very apt thing to do, right? So initial phases, when you're able to recognize your boundaries and when you're setting your boundaries and when you're trying to communicate, maybe those are times when you can actually take more time, observe how you feel and all of that, and then go about saying a no. But once you've got the hang of saying no, then try and avoid asking for more time. Use external resources to say no. Somebody did mention in the questions that I'd asked previously here, saying, like, for example, I have other things to do right now. In reality, you may not, but that's a boundary that you're trying to set and communicate, right? Using external resources, saying this is clashing with something else that I've already planned to do. So, giving those kind of excuses may help you be able to say no in a better manner. Preemptive approach. For example, if there is a group that is, if there is an assignment that was given, a group assignment that was given in a college level, you can put forth initially itself before tasks are assigned, saying that this is something that is not in my capacity to do. So that's a preemptive approach. You're beforehand saying a no to something you feel that may come into your plate. Yeah. And a clear message. Most of the time, because you're not able to say a no and you do not want to say a yes, you give them a very mixed signal. Like, maybe I can do, I will not be able to do, or you're asking for time. So you're making the other person think, okay, they are going to help me in this assignment or they are going to help me with this project because you're asking for that more time. Yeah. So, initial stages itself telling, listen, um, this is something that I cannot do, or maybe you should look for an alternative, or here's a recommendation. Right at the beginning, setting that stage will help rather than giving an unclear or a mixed signal. Yeah, I just want to go back and see if I've missed out on any point. So I'm ready to take any questions because, again, with questions is where most of learning happens. So if you'll have any questions, I'm willing to take those questions. Anything on, I'm also deliberately running these slides to see if you would have any clarifications on any of my points. I think one point, okay, yeah. Get away from people who don't respect your no. In other words, this means that there are always toxic people around us. So recognize those toxic people. Now, when I say toxic people, most often we think about people who are in the outward circle of our life. It could be a far distant relative, it could be a friend of a friend, it could be a cousin. We are always looking at the outside extended family circle and we are not looking at the internal family circle, right? Toxic people can also be your immediate family members, like your parents, or your siblings, or your spouses. Yeah. So it's important to be able to recognize that these people are my toxic circle, and it's important for me to say a no and get away as far as possible from them. On the longer run, it would help you in your mental well-being as well. So I'm ready to take some questions if you'll have any. I wanted to keep this as short as possible, so I'm taking in more questions. And learning happens when questions are asked and I'm able to clarify them. Or any suggestions that you have, or your thoughts as well on these slides that we've seen. Meanwhile, I'd also like, yes,
Sorry, there were some questions in the form.
sure.
How to stop thinking about others and to start being for yourself.
That's where the point of over accommodation and self abandoning is coming from. Most often, this happens in a romantic relationship between husband and wife, fiancés, girlfriend, boyfriend. We are always thinking about the other person. Now, when you start to think of the other person, on the longer run, what happens is resentment sets in. Resentment to this person is making you over accommodate, which in turn means who's making you abandon yourself, right? So again, my answer to this question, direct answer would be trying to set those boundaries and communicate. So at the beginning of the relationship, telling them, okay, this is okay, this is not okay. The second point is you being okay with them saying no to their boundaries. Yeah. So if they are not comfortable with doing something, and if you are using statements that makes them self-abandon themselves, then that's not a very, that's a red flag there, right? So asking them what their boundaries are, communicating what your boundaries is the key, and understanding that it's okay to say no.
Okay, there's another question. How to stop blabbering too much as a reason for saying no?
Yeah, we tend to beat around the bush, right? When we want to say no, that is where my point of clear messages comes in. Yeah, rather than saying, oh, I don't think so, I can do this, my mother's not letting me, or I have XYZ to do. Just saying, communicating. Again, it comes down to communicating it directly. Saying, I don't mean to offend you. Start off with that because that's your intention. You do not want to offend them, and that is why you're beating around the bush. So start with that, saying, I do not want to offend you, but at this moment, I don't think so. I'll be able to help you with XYZ, or I don't think so. I can come with you for that movie because I do not have enough, finances with me. So be direct about it and also put your intention out, saying that I do not mean to offend you.
Okay, one more question is there.
Yeah.
Um, how to say no when you are pressured to say yes?
Can you just be a little more elaborate? What circumstances are you pressurized into saying a yes? That's a toxic thing, by the way. Recognizing that that is toxic in itself will help. But if you can precisely give me, for instance, this happened, it'll help me. One time or the other, we all get pressurized into saying a yes when we want to say a no. But again, it boils down to those boundaries, right? If somebody is pressurizing you into saying a yes, they are not respecting your boundaries, and that is not okay. They become toxic for you, and that's when you put your foot down and say, listen, I know this is upsetting you, but I don't think so I can do this right now. Yeah. So when people do not respect your boundaries, that becomes toxic. Boundaries are something that helps you have, your expectations, putting your expectations out, which is protecting you emotionally, physically. It is something that protects you.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions? They can please feel free to put it in the link I've sent. The first link is wrong, sorry. Just typed wrong.
Meanwhile, I'd like to see what boundaries are. In fact, just a minute. I'm just exiting from my presentation. Just stop sharing for a minute. And I'll just quickly tell you all what boundaries are. So there are different types of boundaries. There are physical boundaries, emotional boundaries. My document is still opening. There's an image that I'd like to show you. In short, this is what a boundary is. Can you all see my picture here on my document? Yeah, in
Yes,
short,
ma'am.
boundary is being aware of what is unacceptable and normalizing saying no. Do what is best for you and know that it's not your responsibility to sacrifice yourself for others. Right? This last point, knowing that it's not your responsibility and it's important not to sacrifice yourself for others, is the key to saying no. This is a point we often do not recognize because of our conditioning. Because most often we are told it is very rude to say no, right? Right from the time we are maybe 2 years old, 3 years old, we are not allowed to say no when we don't feel like sharing a toy with somebody. That is where it all starts, right? And it's important to go back in time and start breaking that conditioning. It's okay to say no when you don't feel like sharing something. Yeah, that is something you have to unlearn and relearn. So there are many boundaries. There is materialistic boundaries. There is boundary, physical boundary. There is emotional boundary. Right? There are people who will just come, not ask for your consent, and dump their sadness or sad story over you, and that might be triggering for you. That's where a boundary comes in and saying, hey, you know what, stop, this is too much of information for you. You haven't asked for my consent, right? So you learn saying no with small steps that you're taking. And that step, firstly, is to recognize your conditioning, and also uh, recognizing that you're self abandoning yourself. So if you're able to do these things, then it starts to follow. Then you'll be able to start saying a no more often. Yeah. So any more questions here? Can I?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, there is another question. For instance, me and my spouse have different needs and wants from life, and my spouse wants me to live a certain way, but then I don't want to be that way, and then I'm forced to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a common thing that happens very often in very conventional setup of marriages, especially in patriarchal systems. This expectation is that the wife listens to the husband at all times and lives the certain lifestyle that the husband sets the ground for, right? Again, being able to recognize what your wants and needs are, and being able to communicate using I statements, saying, I am uncomfortable with what you're asking me to do, or I'm feeling very uncomfortable with your expectation of the lifestyle that you want me to, be subjected to. Right? Start with making I statements, because that goes a longer way. That will not put the spouse on a very defensive mode. When you make you statements, then you're putting the other person on a defensive mode, and they automatically want to justify their reasons, right? So when you make I statements, you're not putting them on a defensive mode. So start with, I'm not feeling I'm not feeling comfortable with this. Can we work around this in a better manner? Can we sit and talk this out rather than just coming to a conclusion? Right? And also, the reason why they feel that it's okay to dictate these things to you is because you have already, set the stage for that. You've already, been in a mode of where you're self abandoning yourself for a very long time. Yeah. So slowly wean away from that. That's why it's important to practice saying no with smaller things. You don't want to go out, you can always say, I don't feel like going out today. Right? So when you practice with those smaller things, it becomes easier to say no to the bigger toxic things in life. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Are there any more questions?
Uh, Sonia ma'am, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself and ask, please? The video is on, but you're on mute.
No, I can't hear you. We
You're
can't.
unmuted, but we can't hear you, ma'am. No. Maybe you want to get out and come back in again? Can you do that? Try that?
Or
Yeah,
if you
okay.
want to type on the chat, you can
Yeah,
do
you
that
can
That's
also.
also okay. Either way. Either
Can
way.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good evening. I'm Sonia.
Hello.
Okay, I was working in an organization, and last month I started an organization on my own. And
Congrats.
my previous employer, thank you, my previous employer is treating me like, and he giving me instructions as if I'm still an employee. Like
Hmm.
I'm no longer an employee of that organization, and he still sends me instructions as though I was one.
Hmm.
So how can I deal with it?
Recognizing firstly what is his need of doing this for you, right? His
Mm-hmm.
intention may be in the right place, but also it might be saying something of who this person is. You know, maybe he's insecure about you starting off an organization. I,
Mm-hmm.
I gather that this person is a male, right? That itself is quite,
Exactly.
yeah, that itself is quite telling. It sometimes it becomes unbearable for men to see that ladies are starting their own organizations. Yeah,
Okay.
without offense to the male population here, but that's the truth. Yeah. So recognizing where is he coming from, what his intentions are, and then maybe sending out a message saying, hey, thank you for this recommendation, it really means a lot, but also I want to let you know that if I do have, or if I'm stuck somewhere, please be assured that I will reach out to you, because that's coming
Okay.
from a place of insecurity for them, that you're growing, that you might not need their help. That's an insecurity for
Okay.
them. So making them feel secure, saying, if I need, I will get in touch with you, don't worry about it, will probably help you in this.
Okay.
You're
Thank
not
you so much.
directly saying a no, yet you're
Yeah.
conveying a no to their, you know.
I'm still I'm coordinating financial educational programs of SEBI and NSC,
Mhm.
and they are the and he's one of my clients now.
Oh,
He was an employee earlier.
mhm.
Now he's one of my clients, and I'm handling sessions in South India.
Oh,
And for Tamil Nadu and Kerala, I'm still doing sessions for him.
oh, that's fantastic. So somewhere I
So
think there is
yeah,
this
he
ego.
still sends me instructions like as if I'm an employee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know it kind of makes us feel very uncomfortable, angry in a
I need
sense.
to draw a line. I need to
Yeah,
draw a line.
yeah. Have to. That's a boundary. That's what you're trying to say, that you have to put that boundary and communicate it to that person who's giving you unsolicited advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, there's another question, ma'am,
Sure.
in the chat box. Many a times we are being insisted to do something with an angle of emotional corner,
Yeah.
due to which many a times unwillingly we need to say yes. How to talk back in that case?
So I can see Anshuman has asked that question. Anshuman, thank you for the question. Yes, very often we are emotionally blackmailed. I want to name that for you. Emotionally blackmailed into doing something we are very uncomfortable doing. Now, when somebody is emotionally blackmailing you, I want you to recognize that that person is a toxic person, right? Firstly, it's not okay for them to do it, especially when you're uncomfortable about doing it. So they become toxic person to you, right? And it's very important to then put that boundary, like a very hard, unbreakable boundary, and say no. You can do all that you want to blackmail me into doing this, but this is not something I'm uncomfortable doing. Again, to get to this spot, you need to start practicing saying no with smaller things, right? Observing how your body feels when you're saying no. Where is this uncomfortable feeling coming from when I'm saying no? Most often, if you sit and reflect, it goes back to your childhood. It goes back to your adolescent years, when your mama papa are calling into the room, forcing you to wish the guests when you feel like, sitting in your room, not respecting that boundary. Yeah, so it goes back to those times, right? So recognizing emotional cornering is an emotional blackmail. Second is they are trying to make you feel guilty. right? They might make statements that is going to make you feel guilty, right? And when you're able to recognize this, automatically you will be able to put in that boundary there. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Anshuman. In short, they're toxic people. Try and keep them away from your life. It could be your parents as well. Yeah. Thank you for responding, Anshuman.
Guys, any more questions? You can either put it in chat. Actually, there is one more question, ma'am. If there is fear that next time, in case if I have to ask for help to the same person to whom I have said no, then in that situation, what should I do?
Well, if they are going to say no to you because you said a no to them, then it goes on to show what a small person they are, right? And trust me, you do not need such type of people in your life. This comes with personal experience. Also, this comes from my experience of my clients. Collective experience is what I'm saying. If there is a person who tells a no to you because you told a no to them, and also understand it's okay for them to say no, right? It's okay, but you will have to then figure out who is that person who you can go and seek help. If it has to do something with academic or professional, try and find other people who can help you with it, right? As much as I'm saying that that person becomes a very small person because you said no, that they said no, understand that they are also allowed to have a boundary and that they are also allowed to have to say a no. Yeah, but at the same time, be cautious of their intent. Yeah.
Guys, any more question? You can put in chat or even in the form, and we can ask them for you, or you can even unmute if you want.
The whole of boundaries thing, before somebody else asks another question, I'd like to mention the whole boundary, the word boundary itself is a word that not many people have heard. Boundaries to a lot of people are just like four walls or your compound walls. It's a very tangible thing that we see, right? But when it comes to your emotional health, mental health, boundaries are intangible things that only you know what your boundaries are, right? So, of course, that's a whole different topic in itself, but there are various types of boundaries. Being able to recognize those boundaries, you recognizing somebody else's boundary is important, especially in romantic relationships. Understanding what your partner's boundaries are, right? And understanding what your boundaries are in a relationship, communicating that with each other, right? Irrespective of how old your relationship has been. Even if you want to go out saying that, I'd like to go out to this place, is that okay with you? Right? And if that person does not feel okay about it, rather than getting upset or rather than feeling that rejection, yeah, understanding that okay, maybe they're not in the mood, maybe they are feeling tired at the end of the week and they might rest. Understanding those things and being okay with it is the key to having healthier boundaries. This afternoon, when I was coming back home, I recognized something about myself, and it was in line with today's topic. Yeah, I wanted to buy this, the black kind of a screen for my car because of the sun. And I was just talking to my partner about it, saying I need to pick up because now my direction, where, my driving direction is a direction where the sun is always falling on my face. So, and just when I was talking about it, I turned, there was a man who was selling these sticky things for the car, the signal. So I was like looking, and my partner and we were discussing, yeah, this is something that we can pick up, right? And this man immediately recognized that we were talking about this, and he came and he stood right next to the car. And he kept saying, why don't you buy it? He kept, giving us the prices, though we didn't pull the window down. But immediately I told him no, and I turned to my partner and I said, that makes me feel so uncomfortable to be, because it saddens me to see that they're trying to make a living and I'm, very conveniently asking for a price and then I'm not buying it. So my partner immediately said, that goes on to tell about how you respond to rejection. That's a very important point, right? The reason why I'm feeling bad about saying no to this person who's trying to sell me something is because how I perceive rejection. How would I feel when somebody is saying no to me? And it's important to be able to recognize that. Right? When somebody is rejecting me, how am I feeling? Am I okay with it? What does that say about myself? Yeah, and it was so in line with today's topic as well. Anyway, if there are any more questions, I'd like to take. If not, I think we're good with this.
There is one more question, ma'am.
Sure.
How to face them once you have said no to them, especially if you have to face them every day. That makes saying no difficult.
Again, with what I was just saying, it's about how it is making you feel. Are you feeling that guilt and shame in you because you said no to that person? If you are feeling guilt and shame, then obviously you're going to find it very difficult to face them after saying a no. So, recognizing, am I feeling guilt or am I feeling shame? Most often, it's one of these two things. You're either feeling shame about saying no to somebody or guilty about saying no to somebody. Right? Once you're able to recognize, is it guilt or shame, then you can ask yourself, where is this coming from? Who has instilled this guilt and shame in me that I am not able to wholeheartedly say a no? Right? Once you're able to recognize those things, you can immediately, your thought process changes and your thoughts become very challenging to your initial guilt and shame. And then it becomes like a common thing. Again, going back, practice with smaller things. Then it becomes much more easier to say no and be okay with saying no as you move on. Yeah, I hope that answers the question of the person who asked.
Guys, any more questions? Last few minutes, if you want to put it up in the form, you can do it, or put it in chat or unmute yourself, either way.